By using a straight line angle, I can take 3 measurements around.
Live from Studio 3 in beautiful Naperville, Illinois. This is Spanesi Interactive Week Wrap-Up with your host, Mr. Tim Morgan.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, I have to tell you, not only was this a fun week to be able to do all this and see these demonstrations and talk to all these great people, but we learned a lot. Karl and I, behind the cockpit here, trying to make sure the plane flies well, and the guys out in the Studio 1 out there doing the demonstrations, doing all the prep work. Every employee in our company, the whole team just jumped in and really knocked it out of the park.
They really did come together today or this week. Actually, for the last couple weeks. What most people don't realize is we've been working on this for a while now, and the entire staff stepped up at a couple weeks ago and just did everything they could to make sure that we had a successful interactive week for the company, but not just for the company, for the viewers. And that's what was really important to us, was putting on something that meant a lot to the collision repair industry, that brought substance back to the conversation, that was less fluff and more about being honest about where we were and where we need to be.
You're going to have some sort of fixturing in order to be able to facilitate correct repairs in the car. We're seeing it on more and more OEM procedures. We're hearing daily from the manufacturers about, make sure that you're aware of this, make sure you're aware of that, and we've seen that in the OEM presentations right away. First OEM presentation with Ford.
Jerry Benani did an incredible presentation on the structure of the Ford Bronco, some of the electronics and the systems that you're going to be experiencing in the Mustang Mach-E, as well as some other platforms. It's stunning the rate of development that we are moving at with this industry in terms of the advancements that are happening right now. There's a whole lot of venture capital money coming into to ADAS and those systems that I'm gonna tell you that Adobe and the other software manufacturers, they went to a subscription basis, and I would say there's going to be a lot more of providing after the sale content based on subscriptions after this is all over.
Well, it's amazing to me looking at the Ford product. I mean, he got my eyes opened up. Okay, what's the next vehicle at our house? But I think it's going to be a toss up when you start looking at some of the things that are out there. But I was really impressed with that Bronco, especially when you start putting it on steroids like they did with some of those added features. But you don't even need a key to be able to operate it anymore. You're going to operate it off your cell phone.
Well, and like I said, and don't get me wrong, subscriptions are not a bad thing in terms of if they bring value back to the customer. And I'm sure that Ford Motor Company and the rest of the manufacturers are bringing that value back. So there are going to be things that you couldn't do in your car, and it's not just about the standard car features, but we're talking entertainment. You're already seeing it with a lot of the over the top software services. I mean, let's talk about Amazon, Apple, Google. They're all providing content for a fee in a lot of cases. I think the automotive industry is actually just catching up.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think there's a big space there where there's going to be some catch up. But I think we as an industry, we need to stay on top of this because, like I said in one of the previous presentations, I'm on the board of directors of Equipment Tool Institute, in the past collision repair chairman. I served on several programs on the board, and for years when I would get up to speak about collision, 90% of the tool companies got up to walk out of the room. And I would say, whoa, slow down. Do you want to come back? We're all in the collision repair business. And some of those people that were actually getting up to walk out were the software people, or they were the testing people, not realizing what was coming in the collision industry or what was already there and the opportunity that was already there, of all the scanning and calibration that was going to have to be done in the future. It took about 4 years of saying, hey, sit back down, look at this presentation, this is coming on a car, to be able to get the tool industry to figure out that we're all in the collision repair business. I'm sitting here even after Danny's presentation from DEG, thinking, you're going to need an information technician in your shop to be able to keep up with the changes. Ian mentioned the other day about bringing up repair procedures for a RAV4, and they had over 1,100 pages they had printed that was going to encompass the complete repair of that vehicle. It's just amazing.
Well, and I'll tell you that information, it costs money to develop, it costs money to house, it costs money to deliver. So and that's what I'm talking about with some of these subscriptions. It's the information is not free. Unfortunately, it's not free to us. It's not free to generate. But we are an information-driven industry, and if you don't think so, you might want to step back a second and reevaluate where you're going in this industry. Because if you're not looking at the repair procedures, if you're not looking at what's the included, not included, and you heard the shop owners talk about, generating information for their employees, even SOPs. That's what we are about, is information and making sure that we're disseminating it as we go along.
Well, and it's not just information. I mean, you look at the different procedures of what's being done and different repair processes, such as if you look at our pull-up system. When you're looking at our pull-up system, being able to straighten the panel instead of having to, like right now with the part shortages and the increased rental times because they can't get parts. Now I have the ability to straighten something that maybe I normally wouldn't, but I have a better technique to be able to do it. A better technique to be able to make the repair proper. And again, I have less interference in the vehicle. I'm not having to remove any interior parts. I'm not welding tabs on the car, so I'm not damaging the corrosion protection. I may have less paint work to do because I'm going to repair more of it. I'm not breaking the exterior paint. So my finish times may not be as much. I may not have to blend as far because I'm not doing such an intrusive repair.
Well, let's talk about efficiency right now, since we're talking about the pull-up system and being able to, if you're not waiting on parts and you can get more touch time on the vehicle, that is a win-win in my book. Especially when you're talking about the corrosion protection not being compromised on these panels, and the complexity of the structures of the construction materials that are being used and the way that they're being implemented in the vehicle. The less I need to the lightest impact to the vehicle structure that I can accomplish to fix a car properly. That's what I want to do as a shop owner, as a technician, and to do it back to OEM specifications. And I can't stress that enough. But efficiency is the key right now, because there's just not enough parts out there. I mean, let's just be honest with each other.
Well, yeah, and besides the parts, I mean, if I can have the original part remain on the vehicle, especially if I'm talking about a quarter panel or something like that is probably easier to be a repair situation. I know we got some calls right now. We're doing a small project for an OEM on the repairing their aluminum vehicles and repairing more than, and then trying to show some better repair processes, so it's easier to make that decision to repair than it is to replace. And you're not compromising as much of the vehicle by repairing that, but it has to be repaired properly.
Well, and you bring up a great point, is we work with the OEMs to ensure that we have a solution for their repairs. But at the same time, when Danny was talking about participating in DEG, if the repairs aren't right, if the repair times aren't correct, if the operations aren't included, you should be letting them know about it so they can update the information providers. It's all about us all moving forward in this industry. And because Spanesi's helping the OEMs, we help our customers. It's all about working together in this.
Well, yeah, you're right there. And I mean, if we go back to, the part of the conversation that Jerry Benani and I had about, when him and I met and started working early in his Ford career in the paint and body center. And, some of the testing we were doing, and some testing went well, and some of it didn't go too well. But, it was a learning experience. And then you go back to the engineer and say, okay, well, this didn't work. What can we do better? Or, I've, in my travels all over the world, when I had a technical position, I remember being in China and had a Jaguar J8 that had a squeak in the chassis when they drove it, and they couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And it actually was coming from a weld that was put on the vehicle that was welded incorrectly. But that noise you didn't hear on the outside when you did a bounce and jounce. You didn't hear it until you were going down the road, and that squeak was coming through the rail all the way up into the passenger compartment. We had basically take the car apart to find it, and it was one little defective weld.
Well, that will just drive you out of your mind. That will drive you. I mean,
it was certainly driving the customer out of their mind after they had the vehicle repaired and couldn't figure out what was up. So learned a lot there too. Blueprinting the vehicle. I mean, having measuring in the blueprinting process, it's a must today.
Is that not included or non-included operation?
It's a non-included operation. Also, if you look at, as Danny in his segment shown, the estimating systems are saying it depends on each vehicle now to what actually has to happen when it comes to, measuring the vehicle, pre-measuring the vehicle. And it depends on the type of equipment that you're using. And we know, because we deal with the OEMs on a daily basis, that 4 pinch welds are not going to work.
You just can't hold 4 pinch welds and let her rip.
No, you're not letting her rip anymore. You're just not letting her rip.
Not heating it till it drips, pulling till it rips. That's not how we do this.
It's not happening. I can tell you this, that, there is less pulling today than there ever has been. Some of that's by design, because the vehicle structures are so sound, and then repair procedures that are there for sectioning and replacement. So you're not pulling as much in the shop anymore today. You're more, if I'm pulling the structure back to be able to get the adjoining panels back, and then I'm going to cut off the crush and I'm going to replace the crush.
So let's talk about that. That's kind of a great lead into the segment that we did with Jeremy earlier this week on the universal jig system. And it actually that kind of covers two segments: small, medium, heavy damage, and small, medium, and large damage. I'm sorry, and the universal jig system, and kind of how those all go together in terms of repair processes.
Well, more and more, as I said earlier, you're going to have some type of holding, a fixturing system to be able to facilitate these repairs. The other thing, Carl, if you look at it, I mean, we've seen the information from CCC, average repair, costs. You start to look at 77% of the vehicles being drivable. So you're seeing more light and medium damage in your facility than you are, on the heavy damage.
Well, and a lot of that, I think, is your market and the geographic location and so on, depending on what kind of hit you're doing. But you're right, you're getting a lot more drivables. A lot less train wrecks that aren't being salvaged, that aren't being totaled. So it's a matter of adjusting to that kind of repair methodology in your business processes.
Well, in you talk about train wrecks. I mean, vehicles total so easily today. when you start to look at value and that. So the fixturing seems to come in more, not just on the heavy. It's going to be in that moderate and maybe even in the light damage to be able to, to be able to hold a part in position for welding, so there's no distortion. So it's not like you're only going to use that 106 bench or 106 EXD for only heavy duty damage. It's going to be used throughout the whole segment of the work that you do.
Well, frankly, if you're not using your benches for pulling vehicles and holding vehicles down while you make those repairs, and you're using it for a parts counter or a lunch bench, or that project that gets worked on when you got nothing else to do, well, then you're not leveraging your equipment investment properly. I mean, you spend a lot of money on a bench, and then you're going to put pizza boxes on it at noon, and and move the bumpers aside so that you can sit down for lunch. That's not what those are for.
Well, that's the other thing, when you start to look at your facility and we start to analyze what we really need to do. We need to go back to our estimating systems. We need to look at what kind of car content are we working on? What type of vehicles are we working on? How many are structural repair? And then we can base better what someone needs in their facility. And we do that on a daily basis. The thing that we seem to be able to understand here, because we have our own body shop, is just how much that square footage needs to be utilized in order to be able to have good based, quality, profitable repairs. Because at the end of the day, we're not a non-profit business. We're in business to make money. And if you have something sitting there that you never use, that you spent money on, and it's not being utilized correctly, and maybe it's not being utilized correctly because you don't have the training, you wasted that money and you're wasting that space every day of the week. So you really need to look at those things too. Is what you're using in your facility the correct tool to be able to facilitate what you're working on?
Well, absolutely. And there's the 4 pillars, right? So you got to have the right tools and equipment. You got to have the right staff, the right training with the staff, and information on how to repair the vehicle. When you put those 4 together, you got a pretty solid shop. But if any one of those 4 pegs falls off the chair stool, you got an issue.
Well, you're talking about technicians and hiring technicians. Is that where you're going with this? Because
we got about 1,000 different ways of going from here. But yeah, technicians it was a big topic this week, wasn't it?
I mean, just trying to find good talent. I know Louis had a great system that he put together of how might score me on a 0 to 10 as a boss, or a 0 to 10 on a business. It's pretty powerful way to be able to look at, are you doing the right thing for your employees? Trying to today's day and age, you have to be able to motivate. You have to be able to younger people coming into the industry. How do we entice them, and when do we entice them?
After talking with everybody this week, the consensus was earlier than I ever thought, which was 7th, 8th grade in junior high school, was to start talking with them about the collision repair industry, and not only being a technician, but also there's 1,000 things you can do in this industry other than being a technician. It's a monstrous industry with 40,000 jobs in North America, U.S. and Canada alone, or collision facilities. I'm sorry, in North America. You can go any number of ways.
Well, to that point, I'm thinking back to when I was growing up. I started getting into cars when I was in like 7th or 8th grade. I think I had my first vehicle. I was only 14. And it was a wreck. Pulled my first frame on a telephone pole out in the street, chain it up, throw it in reverse.
Plus or minus a foot or so on the tolerances?
Yeah, the tolerances were pretty good back in that day. I don't want to tell you what year that was, but it was way back. But when so the technology's changed. The job, I would say, is more high tech than it ever has been. There's a lot of different platforms out there to be able to help you, to be able to guide you through the repair process. And to be able for the technician to be able to see and value the results that they're getting when they make a repair.
Well, it's we're in an instant gratification type of environment. And I'm going to use the term that came out from our panel discussion on hiring new technicians, and that is the zillennial environment. And these are the people you're hiring right now is your younger techs. The average age of technician, Amber Ritter from the Collision Repair Education Foundation told us that they're mid 40s on average technician age at this point. So, there's a lot of people that are retiring and we're not replacing them. And we're not replacing them, but we have a huge need.
Well, and that's it. How do you entice them into the industry? And that's why I think I have to agree with the panel this week that we need to start earlier. We need to get information about our industry out to the schools sooner and just the general public. No one really knows what happens in a body shop unless they've ever been in an accident. And not everybody gets in an accident. So not everybody knows how crucial it is if you get in an accident to have to draw students in the direction to be able to get into this field.
Well, and I got to tell you, there is something to be said. When I was growing up, my dad had me work on my own cars. Okay. He actually put a pit in the garage and so that we could crawl underneath and work on the cars without having to put a lift in. So he put a pit in so we could stand up and work on cars. So at a very early age, I was burning myself with motor oil, doing my own oil changes, which, you learn the hard way, but you learn, right? So there's not that kind of, in a lot of cases, I know that my nephews and my nieces, and they just didn't have to have that kind of automotive knowledge. Maybe they didn't grow up in a house that was like that. Their parents were professionals, but there's a lot of people out there they're in high school and junior high that'd rather work on their hands than sit in a classroom. Every day you hear it.
Well, I can tell you in our garage, my first spray booth fan was an old squirrel cage motor out of someone's furnace. And, my dad would find out every Sunday morning what color I painted the day before because the whole garage was that color when I was finished.
Which is an interesting conversation the first time it happens.
Yeah, but, trust me, I was changing colors of that garage once a week. I was trying to stay busy.
So one of the things that we talked about, along with hiring new technicians was the culture. And we talked with Louis Sharp from Sharp Auto Body out here in Round Lake, Illinois. Talked to Ian Morton. He talked about calling his staff. They weren't staff, they were teammates. And the way that he guided them. And also Clay Hobright, who's just incredibly driven to succeed, and he's succeeding with an awesome team. And him and his wife recently got ill with COVID and had to take a couple weeks off, and their business just kept running along without any issues. And what struck me about all these three, and Louis Sharp kind of kicked it off with his leadership conversations, was how he's leading his team, and that's what's been so important to his success.
Well, Karl, my motto. There's no I in team. Everyone works together to be able to get to one end result. Just like we pulled it off here this week.
And that's absolutely the case. And when we were talking with Louis, I was just struck by and you mentioned earlier hey honey, how am I doing? And rate me on a scale of 1 to 10. I don't dare do that. And I love my wife to death.
Well, I said he asked his technicians, but yes, he did say I went home and asked my wife. I don't think I would go home and ask my wife how I was doing 1 to 10 either, Carl, to be honest.
Well,
But he was in the Marines, so he may be able to get himself out of it a little easier than we can.
oh, he's a tough man. I'll tell you that. And you know what? But he's one of the kindest guys you'll ever meet. And the conversation really surrounded with Louis about leadership and now how he leads his team and sets forth the goals and the transparency that he has and the communications with his shop. And I think that Clay and Ian also kind of hinted at that kind of transparency with, hey, here's the goal. We're going to take that beachhead. We're going to go and make that mark.
Yeah, and I mean, they're showing their numbers to the crew. They're all working together. Every single shop owner that we talked with this week had a different level of how they were taking care of payroll and what they were doing, and it's working for them. So I think it's really interesting to see how, if you don't believe that culture is a major priority for your business, you're not really looking deep in your business.
Well, I mean, you can have an efficient business and running, and then you can spend your 14, 16 hours a day doing that every day of the week and every Saturday and not have a home life. And as soon as you step away, it'll fall apart because you haven't built that culture. And that was one of the things that really stood up with me and stood out to me with Clay and Ian especially, was just their ability to build the systems, get the buy-in, get the right people in place, and then be able to walk away and run their business, not work in their business. And there's a big difference.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's either you're keeping it all going, and that's why you hire people to, good quality people to be with you. I'm in the mindset, if I have to be following you around and making sure that you're doing everything correctly, then I don't think you fit my management style, because I give people tasks, I give them opportunities, and I expect them to run with it, and come back to me if there is a problem, and then we'll all work together to get a solution.
Well, you are good at delivering tasks. I'll tell you, Spanesi Interactive Week was a request.
Well, hey, we pulled it off, didn't we? And besides, I mean, it's too bad we don't have a camera behind the scenes of the blown up laptop, the microphones that broke, the software that didn't mix together quite well. I know you told me this morning that you have less hair now than you had when we started, but I honestly think you were pulling it out. It wasn't falling out.
Well, I'm blaming it on the stress, but there might have been some head banging and some hair pulling 15 minutes before showtime when the laptop did blow up. And that is a true story, by the way. And I don't recommend that for anybody, but if you want to have fun, try scheduling a liver and then having the laptop blow up on you.
Yeah. Did you mention the word stress?
I did, actually, yes.
Oh, because I had a boss at one time told me there was no such thing as stress.
No such thing as stress.
That's what I was told.
Well, then it must be true. He must have read it on the internet somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I don't know. I've been in some pretty stressful positions in my lifetime, but nope, I was told there's no such thing as stress. So let's go back to the technology. I was blown away yesterday with the Rivian presentation.
Well, and I think that also talks to Frank's presentation as well. But Rivian, let's start off with Rivian. Let's talk about the ADAS systems and everything that they're going to be implementing in these new vehicles. It is truly amazing.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you think about the presentation that Frank Turlett brought to us, and the product that they're launching for, to be able to know exactly where all the knowledge, the repair procedures, and all the information just by taking the VIN and scanning the VIN, that's just amazing. I mean, there's your roadmap to be able to build a repair plan. Because when we looked at the numbers that he was talking about, 12% are hitting the estimate or the repair plan with these procedures. That's it. There's a lot of vehicles out there already and what's going to come in the future, that again, as I said earlier, you're going to need a technology technician on staff to be able to understand what needs to be done on these cars and when. And that tool that Frank shared with us, not only is that going to help you do the repair, but to educate the consumer of this item in your vehicle needs to be looked at. And, we have to make sure that we reset these parameters, or we change this XYZ part in order to get you back to a pre-accident condition, and you can operate the vehicle safely.
Well, and listen, your motoring public, our motoring public, I shouldn't say our motoring public is getting used to these ADAS systems, these blind spot systems, these lane change, lane keeping, adaptive cruise control. And it's all fun and games until one of those doesn't work and they're relying on it and they're in another accident because we didn't put it back together right.
Exactly. But it's just amazing that you go from all the technology that's in ADAS today and what's coming, having to recalibrate cameras when a windshield's replaced that has a camera behind it. Just the lane departure sensors, all that. It is a burden on the shop to be able to find out where all that stuff's at and to be able to know exactly what I do next.
Well, and you're absolutely right. You're going to have an electronics technician in your shop sooner than later. And what I recommend is sooner than later. And you figure out how to bill for that individual and make sure that you are getting reimbursed for their efforts, because, again, information is not free. So I don't know why your information is not free. And it's also per vehicle. And it's per trim package in a lot of cases. So you can't it's not a cost of doing business. It is a billable product that needs to be accounted for, as well as understanding everything that goes into that repair. So the information is critical, and your electronics guys need to be up on it. You need to get them the proper tools, and again, you need to be able to get reimbursed for it, because yeah, Tim said he's a for-profit kind of guy, and frankly, if you're in business, didn't he need to be?
Well, yeah, and that goes to a point that when you start to join with your partners of who you're going to work with, it's who's going to support you from the background. I mean, no longer are you just turning off a light on a dash. We need to know what's really going on there. You're just not going to set codes. Those codes were brought up for a reason.
Well, and the lights on the dash, they really don't mean anything. It's all diagnostics, and you won't have lights in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, you won't have that light. You won't be able to see it until it's too late. The customer gets back in that vehicle.
Right. There's so many sensors and so many different things on the vehicle. If we look at Frank from Rivian's presentation talking about cameras going to be in, over the wheel well, in the moldings all the way around the car. So virtually that driver and the information that's being collected in that Amazon van is probably going to be in one of the safest vans around when you start to look at what they're going to be able to see, heads up display, and the information that can be collected in case of an accident and everything that goes along. But then if you look at today's car, they're so connected that if you look at just like OnStar, you get in an accident, they're going to call you. Hey, you were just in an accident. We know your airbag went off. How can we help you? Do you need an ambulance? Same thing with that Rivian vehicle. As from the presentation, they're going to know when that vehicle is going to be in an accident. They're going to be able to know exactly from the sensors that were activated what they're dealing with to be able to get it into their repair network. And the information is just amazing of how they're putting that network together and how robust it is and going to be.
Well, not only are they putting together the collision network, but they're also providing the insurance for these vehicles. So the consumer vehicles, the pickup trucks and so on, they're going to have their own insurance division. So you're talking about an ecosystem here, and Frank was very straightforward with, we're going to put our hands in the shop and actually see what's going on and see if you fit our DNA, to be one of the Rivian repair centers that they want to know that their vehicles are going to be fixed right.
Well, in the first purchase from Amazon was 100,000 vans. Can you imagine that? 100,000 vans, one sale. I'd like to have been the salesman to do that, but to buy 100,000 vans, all you got to do is go online and type in your information, and I think you just give them your credit card for a deposit, because they don't have dealerships, so they're not even going to have service departments. They're going to come to you, except for in the instance, obviously, with collision repair, they're going to have to move the vehicle to a shop, but they're not going to have the traditional dealership that you're kind of used to. But when you've seen how they're going to have a person who's assigned to a vehicle owner to help them all the way through ownership.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. They're thinking way out of the box. They're thinking, in my opinion, they're thinking more like a high-end consumer, like a Nordstrom's in a day, like Rob's, the high-end stores you go in and be catered to. That's the kind of customer experience they want, because they don't want to lose that customer after they've acquired that customer.
Well, that's the kind of service that I want. I want somebody that's going to stand up and help me out when I need it. I don't want to have to be waiting on hold for hours. We all don't have enough time in a day. So those types of things, taking that off my plate, that would be awesome. I wouldn't have to deal with, here, take the keys, go do what you have to do. But, also in the technology of, they're not the only ones going into the insurance business, by the way, if you want to call it, because we see that General Motors is doing it with OnStar and several other vehicle manufacturers. And I think from my standpoint, where I feel that's going, and geez, I've been wrong a few times before, Karl, don't get me wrong, but I think that is also going to help direct the repairs to be done correctly, and that they're following the OEM procedures. I think it's more than just trying to be a profit center for them. They truly believe that they want to be able to help the customer so that they can keep that customer. There's documentation where I don't know exactly where it is, but I think the number is somewhere around 60% of the vehicle owners that get in an accident get rid of their vehicle within the next 18 months. And if it's totaled, most of the time, they don't go back to that same manufacturer. They'll move to a different brand.
Well, and those numbers are staggering. And when we're thinking about just capturing a few percentage points, if you're an OEM, that is a significant amount of lost revenue that you can recapture and keep those customers loyal to your brand. And brand loyalty is the name of the game, and you see it every day. I have this conversation. I'm a technology guy. Apple versus Windows, Apple versus Android, Amazon versus Walmart delivery. Loyalty is people are really becoming sticky to those brands.
Well, and they're brand loyal when they're taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, you have to look at that. I mean, we push very hard here to make sure that our, everybody in the Spanesi family of clients out there are taken care of in the proper way as quick as possible.
Well, and I will tell you that, working for the Spanesi family and being able to represent this brand of quality, high-end collision repair equipment has been an honor for me, because when I walk into a grocery store, I can look at any of our customers and say, "How are you doing today?" and not have to worry about looking them in the eye and saying hello.
Yeah, it is pretty exciting here in this business, I have to say. We're heading past our ninth anniversary here. Which would have been, which was October here. I opened this operation here October 1st, 2012. So we're heading towards 10 years. We've grown a lot. We've been able to take the brand further and gain more OEM exposure and approvals. It's pretty amazing what we've been able to do here in our own business. And then you watch, what the vehicle manufacturers are doing. They're growing too. And we start to look at, things are changing. And we happen to be all hard workers. And that's how things get done is, sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves and go with it. And that brings me to one of the things we won't have to do this week or next week is we're not going to have to roll up our sleeves and build a booth at SEMA because of what's happening right now with the COVID situation. Myself and the Spanesi family felt it wasn't a good idea for our employees to be put in a position that could put us in harm's way. We feel for our customers, and that's where this interactive week came from. I won't say it was totally my brainchild, but I was like, Karl, hey, can we do this? and we need to invite this person, and we need to see if we can put this program together. And oh yeah, we got 4 or 5 weeks to get this done. But it's got us to, yeah, that's the face you gave me. You're right. You want me to do what? And but it's been fun, and we again blow up a laptop, whatever. We see some of the challenges we've had, and some of the challenges we have wasn't even our own software we're using. It was some social media software that was giving us a hard time. So
well, you also forget that we did let's see, Northeast Trade Show, a couple of trade association meetings, and
Fender
Bender conference, and I think you only went to 17 states in that 6 weeks. So
you're right. You're right. We did put some miles on, and we'll be putting some miles on next week. But it unfortunately it won't be out in Las Vegas at SEMA. We will be there to see you in 2022. We put this whole project together to give something back so that you could be able to still see our smiling faces, obviously, but to give some good content. We talked about some new products. We talked about Hero. We showed just how versatile the multi-bench was. We went through our welders. We went through pull-up. So we covered a lot of our products, but we also covered a lot of good knowledge information for the shop owners, for the technicians to be able to take away from this. So I honestly think that this wrap-up video should be the first one at the top of the playlist, so they're enticed to be able to go look at the rest of the series.
I sense a direction coming here. So just in case you're wondering where you can find these, we will be posting these, the entire series up on YouTube. Good and bad or ugly, you will see the highlights in the and maybe see some highlights, maybe not hear the highlights in certain cases, but it'll be up there for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's what you learn doing something live. We know now we need a couple of backup systems, which we will be taking care of right away, even a backup laptop. We'll have to be more careful so we don't trip on the floor. We don't need people falling asleep in their chairs on a break.
I'd like a larger studio.
Well, we haven't even shown them Studio 2 yet. We've only used 1 and 3 so far.
Well, and that is the case. I'm already, trust me, folks, I'm already petitioning for the next iteration above this one. So, and the one after that, and one after that. So that's my job, and Tim's job is to go. We got to sell something first. Well,
and hey, while we were doing the pull-up demonstration, we did have a customer show up, and he was actually watching the live from the lobby, waiting for us to end the live and came out in the shop area and actually even worked with us for 2-3 hours with not just the pull-up system, but with the measuring system also, just from him sitting in the lobby watching the live.
And that was actually really cool because they both had there was two gentlemen out there, and they had their mobile devices up, and they're watching Facebook Live while we're doing it in here. and that is the reach of social media. We can go right to our lobby.
Well, I have to say it has been a pleasure doing this. I know it's been hectic. We've all put in a lot of hours. Karl, you've put in probably more than all of us. And your expense reports must be in the next 48 hours so I can calculate just how much this cost us. Trust me, I know there was a lot of purchases to be able to pull this one off.
Well,
but
I'm going to tell you that yeah, there was.
Tell me?
Yeah, no. Let's just say in the spur of the moment, I had just enough HDMI cables. No matter what happened, I used every single last one of them.
Well, I think it's more than HDMI cables. We got cables all over the place to run all 8 cameras that we're up to. This originally started as a 4-camera project, turned into 8 real quickly. Not to mention some of the boards I see you operating over there. So, yeah, it's been fun.
I really wish you wouldn't count all the equipment that I have over here all the time.
Well, I mean, I have to. They're assets for the company, although I know they're your tools.
Tools. That's right. They're not toys, they're tools.
Yes.
But if you're going to have fun, you might as well have fun, right?
Yep. And if you're going to do it, you do it right. And I do commend you for everything, all the stress that you were put under to be able to keep this thing all together and smoothly. And we had our summer intern come back for 10 days to work with us, Malachi, out there moving cameras, helping do the setups of the different scenes that we were doing, and the activities of everyone in the company setting up, taking down, setting up, taking down, and we even had to go do a redo.
Yeah. We actually came back in this morning early because we had a video issue yesterday, so that we could get it in the can. So that because it was a great session. It was a great session on vehicle damage, small, medium, and large damage types, and what do you do so that everybody came together. There was no complaining. There might have been some tense moments.
I only raised my voice once, and that's because no one was listening.
I think it was actually me that was tense.
Oh, well, yeah, you got me there. And I don't blame you. I just went outside and told everybody, don't go near Karl for a while. His laptop is smoking.
Tim walked in and I looked at him and go, I don't want to, nobody asked me any questions. And Tim just looked at me and goes, and left.
Well, anyway, I have to say it's been a fun week. This is something that's going to continue for Spanesi, and I think part of the direction as we turn is getting our partners over in Italy involved, and maybe get them involved in some of these live events. But you can count on us for at least one a month, if not more. We've already had some people contact us with some ideas and wanting to add some content. So you'll see we'll be giving out plenty of notice to be able to get out to you so that you have time to be able to watch it live or be able to restream it later on.
Well, and not just about our industry contacts coming into the studio and talking to us about content, but also what do you want to hear? If you want a topic to be discussed, send your topic request to media@spanesi-americas.com so that we understand what you're up against and what you would like to hear from us, and we will get people involved that can answer those questions, that can be experts on the subject to help you. So that's what this platform is really about, is bringing the value back to our customers and to the industry.
Well, I think, Karl, we've had a success. Also along the way, I'm sure there may be people seeing some commercials. We were able to support both the Collision Repair Education Foundation and
CIF, the Collision Industry Foundation. And they do a lot for this industry. For industry people that are in need, they have helped a lot of fine colleagues out throughout the years, and it's a very worthy cause. And we want to give a shout out to Petra and the entire CIF family out there that spend a lot of time volunteering, so that we can give back to this industry.
Well, and lastly, like I said, Collision Repair Education Foundation, a really key point uh, to be able to help the schools, help the technicians. We've been able to support them over the years with some different donations and things, and actually they've given back to us because one of our own employees actually came from a local college, graduate of Wabanzi, and when he left Wabanzi, he was awarded a tool by the Education Foundation. So he actually didn't have to go out and spend a lot of money up front to be able to get started in the industry. He had a startup set of tools that came with him.
And I have to tell you, he's one of the hardest working guys out there. So, there's a lot of great people in this industry that are coming out of these vocational programs that need help and support, and even folks that aren't coming out of vocational programs. You have your veterans that are returning, that are looking for employment. You have high school students that don't want to go to college. They don't want to go to VOTEC. They want to get their hands dirty. They want to get their knees dirty. They want to get dirty in the shop and start their careers. And we need the culture to support those folks and bring those in, because that's really the next generation. That's how you're gonna get your shop to the next level.
Well, and that just means that the shop owner needs to get more involved in their civic school activities and trying to help the local VOTECs and local colleges out, and within their own facility try to have a mentor that's going to be able to work with them to be able to get them to the next level, or to be able to move them from that floor sweeper to the detail person and then the prep person, and all three shop owners that we talked to this week all agreed on one thing. They like to move people up internally. They like to grow from within, whether it's within the family network of the network of their family, to bring in more of their family in as employees, but also to take the people in their shop and move them up to the next level.
Yeah, and you've heard a couple of our shop owners say that they assign a mentor to new people,
and you have to do that.
Yeah, you really do, because you know what? It's as simple as, if you need to find the restroom your first day, you may not have any idea where the heck it's located, and having that go-to resource just to make the new hires feel comfortable makes a difference.
I remember showing you the first day. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've never forgotten. I'm going to tell you that right now.
All right, Karl. It's been fun. Why don't you take us out?
All right. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us for Spanesi Interactive Week. We will see you again very soon. Check for dates at events.spanesi-americas.com. Have a great weekend.
They say things are changing in the automotive industry. New technology, computers, self-driving vehicles. From where we stand, we see our future and our past. The Collision Repair Education Foundation supports educational programs, schools, and students, working to create qualified, entry-level employees ready for the career opportunities our industry provides. But we can't do this mission without you. Each year, the foundation works to connect corporations and individuals to schools and students across this country. By being a part of our mission, you become an amplified force of leadership, reaching students, instructors, and community businesses in every corner of the industry. From where we stand, together, we see our community evolving and supporting each other. We see connections being forged in fire and fostered with trust. Connections that live long past graduation day. Connections that form the foundation of our workforce and shape the future of collision repair. Your support not only provides the much-needed resources for instructional education, but builds local communities by facilitating a sustainable workforce. A workforce trained in tradition, but equipped for the future. Learn more about how you can impact the collision repair industry yesterday, today, and tomorrow.